there we go. The wing drops, we fall out of the sky, bang. And that's terrible, and yeah, you don't want to do that. Greetings fellow simmer, and welcome to the reaction review with me, GripperSim. This is episode 3 of the Flight Instructors tutorial series, and we are looking today at exercises 9 and 10, turning and stalling. Please remember that these tutorials are watered down for Flight Simulator 2020 and are not for real life. First, we're going to have a look at exercise 9, which is turning. For example, why does the nose always go down in a turn? Well, we're going to have a look at why that is. I'm not going to spend too much time in exercise 9 because it'll bore you to tears, but it will be relevant for exercises 12 and 13, which is in the circuit, which is when you're landing and taking off. Then we're going to have a look at exercise 10, which is the stalling. Stalling is not when you switch off the engine. Stalling is when the airflow separates from the wing, causing the aircraft to lose height rapidly, which is bad when you're coming into land or after takeoff. I'm going to show you how to recover from the stall and also some common errors people make in Flight Simulator 2020, causing them to stall their airplane and most likely crash. Exercise 9, turning. If you're new to these series of tutorials, I will put a link at the end of the video for the playlists of all the exercises, because with these exercises you need to follow them from the start. You don't have to, but it's beneficial, very much so, because when we do exercise 4, effects and controls, everything else stems from that. So I do suggest have a looking at that. And I'll put a link up here on the exclamation mark at the upper right hand corner, and I'll put a link to the playlist for all the tutorials at the end of this video. So today we're doing exercise 9A, a medium level turn. The definition of which, by the way, is you're turning at a constant height, at a constant bank angle, with constant power and in balance. So we're going to turn at 30 degrees today. 30 degree turns. But what's 30 degrees? Well, 30 degrees is, if you look at the artificial horizon here, it's telling us we're at 0 degrees. So you're looking at the top here. So the first notch is 10 degrees, the second notch is 20 degrees, and the third notch is 30 degrees. Typically speaking, in real life, when we teach turning or we're teaching climbing turns, we only turn at 20 degrees in a climbing turn. So no more than 20 degrees in a climbing turn. That's just a safety thing. But today we'll be doing our climbing turns at 30 degrees just to accentuate what happens in a climbing turn. But let's do turns in straight and level flight first. Speaking of which, when you get in the air, make sure that you have straight and level flight. Now, you want to keep a nice altitude. So I want to keep 6,000 feet here. That's my goal. And we want to maintain straight and level flight, which was last week's exercise. So you can pop up and down arrows. I'm just popping up arrows here so we can see the end of the cowling, which is the white bit here. The end of the cowling is the end of the bonnet. Okay, so you're sitting higher some days and you're sitting lower some days, so it depends. That picture may change, but for the purposes of flight sim, just have it one notch up so you can just barely see the end of the cowling. So let's turn. We're in straight and level flight at the moment, which means a constant altitude, a constant heading. So you keep a feature dead ahead, which will give you a constant heading down here. Now I'm a little bit high, so I'm going to lower the nose a bit and sneak it back down to 6,000 feet, because that's what we want. There we go. Roughly. Okay, come on. There we go. Right. Now, we're going to turn 30 degrees, which is here. 10, 20, 30. Now, in real life, we're looking outside all the time, and we're guessing for 30 degrees. So we're going to do a bit of both today, okay? So I'm looking outside. I'm going to turn to the right. I'm going to keep a pressure to the right until we get to 30 degrees, and then I'm going to neutralize the control coil. But look, the nose wants to go down, see? It wants to go down, so you've got to apply back pressure. Back pressure, keep that nose up, because we're descending there, see that? So you want to avoid and anticipate that. So why does the nose go down in a turn? Well, the nose goes down in a turn because when you turn, you've got to apply back pressure to keep level flight. And by keeping back pressure, you're applying lift on the tail, which lift, of course, has its twin drag. Drag slows you down and you descend. And there's other reasons as well, but that's the main one. So there we are. We're in a constant turn at 30 degrees. We're pretty much level. And this here is our picture. Look where the horizon is intersecting with the cowling or the dashboard. That is a picture. That is the picture you want to master for a 30-degree turn. Now, I know the horizon is slightly behind the mountains, but you never have a full horizon, do you, in real life? There's a nice horizon there. pretty much. So it's pretty much above a little bit. Okay, now if I were sitting down lower, if I were shorter, for example, in the real aircraft, that would be my picture. Look, my picture would change. So I've got to get this picture. I'm looking at my vertical speed indicator and I'm applying a bit of back pressure. You don't trim in a turn also. So you got to get that picture, and I practice this. Now, look at our speed. We're just above 80 knots. Okay, we slowed down because we have more drag. I'm going to straighten it up now. So I'm going to straighten it up, and our airspeed is going to increase. So I release the back pressure that I had. I get my picture for straight and level flight again. It's 2 inches above the end of the cowling. Now we're accelerating a bit. That's because we're not creating as much drag in the turn. Now, that's a right-hand turn. In a left-hand turn, the picture's different. So let's try left-hand turn. But this time, when I turn through 20 degrees, I'm going to anticipate the nose wanting to go down by applying back pressure as I go through 20 degrees. Now let me just get straight level here now. There we go. Just get my RPM set, 2200 RPM. There we go. Now, you ready? Turn to the left. I keep turning to the left as I go to 20 degrees. A bit of back pressure. Oh, not too much. It's very finicky. Then we got 30 degrees. Now we're not diving or not doing we're not in a spiral dive towards the ground now because I applied a little bit of back pressure. It's very, very sensitive. Get my 30 degrees. There we go. There we go. That's a different picture. Look where the horizon is intersecting with the cowling now. It's here. Keep that picture. We're around about 0. Okay, we've gone 100 feet up. Big deal. Okay. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to decrease that altitude? And you can go with the nose a little, just a tad, just to get a very slight rate of descent. If you find yourself with a high rate of descent, don't pull back, because the real thing, you get a lot of G's doing that. You just decrease the bank angle. So I'm just decreasing, letting the nose go down just a tad, and then reducing the bank angle, and then going back into my picture. So that's the picture. So practice that and see if you can get level flight. I'm going to level off again now. So I'm leveling off. As I go to 20 degrees again, I'm releasing the back pressure. Otherwise we start climbing. And I get my picture for straight and level flight. So it's easy enough, straightforward enough. But there's more to it than that. We want to turn in a climbing turn and a descending turn. So let's do a climb and then do a turn. Now in real life, when you do a climb in an aircraft like a Cessna or any light aircraft, you don't turn more than 20 degrees in a climbing turn. But today I'm going to do it to 30 degrees just to accentuate how everything changes. So, as before, a climb, it's full power. Attitude, I'm going to put the horizon 2 inches below the end of the cowling. Holding it there, just holding it here, just looking here, I'm not looking in. Just hold it there. And the airspeed will eventually drop to 70 knots, which is the best rate of climb, as you've seen from the previous exercise. Again, the playlists will be at the end of the video. There we go. 70 knots, full power climb. Fine, look at our speed, 70 knots. Now, what happens when we turn? The airspeed goes down, especially in a climbing turn. So I'm going to turn to the right to 20 degrees initially. If I keep that picture, the airspeed decreases, look. It's decreasing to 65 knots. So I'm going to lower the nose in the turn to keep my 70 knots. Okay, so I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. I got to go 20 degrees because bad habits die hard as well as good ones. There we go. Now we got 70 knots, but we had to lower the nose to keep our 70 knots. Why is that? Because more lift, more drag. And there we go. So that's the new picture. Now, what if we want to level off in the turn? Okay, we want to level off in the turn and keep our altitude, but we want to keep the turn going. What I'm going to do, it's the same as before. At the last exercises we did, it's attitude, power back to 2200 RPM, which is our cruise, and trim. But we keep the turn going. So I'm adjusting my picture outside. I want to get 0 feet a minute, and we keep the turn going. There we go. The speed slows down a little bit, and then we can level off. I know it looks easy, but it's kind of tricky. Now, let's do a turn to the left this time. Full power, attitude, and trim. I'm pushing the horizon 2 inches below the cowling, not above. Just hold it there. You get 70 knots and it'll hold it there. There we go. This is the picture. I can lower the nose just to fine tune it if I want to get 70 knots. And there we go. Oops, a bit too slow. That's fine. Great. Now let's turn to the left. Let's do 30 degrees just to accentuate it. Look, I have to... There's 30 degrees. You shouldn't do this in real life. And look at the speed dropping. See, it's 65 knots there now. 60. See that? So lower the nose and reduce the bank angle to 20 degrees. And I'm looking outside now for a new picture for 70 knots. Pitching up, holding it there now. Holding it here. This is my new picture. About 70 knots. And there you go. To level off and to stop turning and level off, straighten the wing. Get my 2 inches. And level off attitude. Power back to 22. And trim. Oops, not too much. So just practice that is all I'm saying. Now, I want to show you something for flight sim. Let's get the view. Let's get the view from the tail. You're going to have to bear with me now here because I can't remember the keys. No. No. Okay, let's get the views. This is just a common issue I see with people in the flight simulator. There are so many keys to the views. It's tiresome. Now, I notice a lot of people are flying like this, okay? And they're turning. And that's great. And that's fine. And that looks okay, doesn't it? And everyone's doing this. And they're turning. And they're wondering why... They're wondering why the stall warner's going off. Hear it? Now, we're going to talk about the stalls next. And they're going, oh, what's going on? Look at the... Hop inside now and look at the view. Look at this. Now, that's a different picture, isn't it? That's why that sound is going off. So, when you're flying, the outside view is not the best. It looks okay, but it's actually not. I've not yet seen a pilot in real life who's able to fly the airplane from outside, 30 feet behind, and about 10 feet above the tail. If you see someone like this or know of them, please let me know, as I'd love to interview them. Slow flight and the stall. Now we're going to play with slow flight. Now, I'm in straight and level flight. I've got 6,000 feet, 2,200 RPM. The horizon is 2 inches from the cowling, which is giving me level flight. And we're just under 90 knots, 85, 90 knots. So, what I'm going to do... Oh, actually, before I do that, I'm just going to show you how responsive it is. Look how responsive it is in roll. So, I'm using the ailerons here. Ailerons again at the end of this wing here. And you see the static strips there. See? It's quite responsive. Now, we slow down, that's going to be less responsive. It's going to be less responsive because there's less airflow over the wings. So, I'm going to reduce the power, a big chunk of power. What happens when I take the power off? Nose goes down. But I don't want to descend. I want to keep level flight. So I'm just going to do my best here to keep level flight. And in order to keep level flight, whilst the aircraft slows down, I have to apply back pressure on the control column to create a higher angle of attack on the wings. And they will create lift up to a certain extent. So I don't descend. Oops. I'm bringing the nose up constantly. See the speed's dying, but I'm staying level. Now I want 50 knots, so I'm going to add power now to keep that 50 knots. Just an amount. Bring the nose up. So what I'm doing here is I'm playing with pitch and power to stay level at 50 knots. So you got to play around with that. To speed up, of course, what do you do? Lower the nose. But when I lower the nose, I descend, so I don't want to do that, so I have to add power. There we go. So it's roughly about there. Now, don't trim when you practice this, because what I want you to feel is the back pressure in your joystick or your control column. Now, if I let go of that back pressure, dunk, nose goes down. See? So I want you to feel that. Now, when you've got your 50 knots, thereabouts, okay? You'll see when I use the ailerons, look how sloppy the controls are. Sloppy and unresponsive. This is slow flight. Not a good place to be close to the ground. Now look at the aileron again, down here. I have to move it a lot more than I did before to get the same result. Why is that? Because there's less airflow over the wing. Now, you might say to yourself, okay, how do I recover from slow flight? Instantly you think add power. No, that's not actually how it's done in real life. What you actually do is lower the nose, because the lower the nose will break what's called the critical angle of attack. Now, the critical angle of attack is when, let's say the airflow is where the horizon is here, okay? And the wing here from the trailing edge to the leading edge, that's called the chord line, that goes up here. So that angle here is called the angle of attack. Now, when I lower the nose, you'll get speed instantly, very, very, very quickly in the simulator, okay? So watch this. I'm going to lower the nose, okay? When I get 60 knots, I'm going to add power. So I'm going to lower the nose first, then add power, and then climb away for 60 knots. So watch this. Lower the nose. Look at the speed building up instantly. Add power. Pitch up, pitch up, pitch up, pitch up, pitch up. 60 knots. Hold it there. And then we're getting away from the ground. Oops, that's a little bit slower than 60 knots. We're quite high. And I'll level off. Attitude. Is my mixture lean properly? There we go. Power. Oops. And trim. So there we go. That's slow flight. So try that. Practice flying at 60 knots with the same altitude, 50 knots with the same altitude, etc. And see how well you'll do. Very, very important for landing, etc., etc. Now, that's slow flight. What about the stall? The stall, if I look over here, I said to you that the angle of attack is the, let's say the relative airflow is where the horizon is. It's coming this direction. And the wing, from the trailing edge of the wing to the leading edge of the wing, if you imagine an imaginary line going there, that's an angle of attack. Okay, so when you exceed that angle of attack of 15, 16 degrees, that's when the stall takes place. And effectively, if I come out here and look at the view and external, you'll see with the wing here, okay, oops, I'll just move up. It's thicker here than it is at the end. See that? So the air comes over the top and it's laminar. It's very close to the wing. But when you increase the angle of attack a lot, the airflow just goes up away from the wing. So there's no lift in the wing whatsoever. Let's go back in here to our cockpit. But let's stall the airplane. Okay, so we're 6,200 feet. This time I'm going to reduce all the power. Now I know I'm not using the carpet very well, okay, because I don't have the physical control and the muscle memory isn't there in the simulator. I don't have any controls. It's all mouse movements, okay? So don't worry about the carpet. I know some of you are going, oh, you're not doing it the right way. You're supposed to pull carpet up before you take the power off. I know that. I know. Now, I'm constantly applying back pressure as I did before. We're slowing down. See that? All the power is off. All of it's off. It should be below 1500. It should be like a 10. But anyway, that should come down as we slow down. It's just the simulator isn't perfect. So I'm constantly applying back pressure now because I want to keep, just like in slow flight, I want to keep at the level. That sound is called a stall warner. It's telling us we're going to stall and it goes off 5 knots before the stall. Now, I'm continuously bringing the control column all the way back now to full deflection. Now it's at full deflection. And we're losing altitude, see? The nose is dipping down. Typically the nose will just fall down. That's what should happen, because the centre of gravity is forward where the engine is. Okay? And we're losing altitude. Now, the Cessnas are very, very forgiving in the stall. That's why they're a training aircraft. In other aircraft, in more complex aircraft, the wing will just drop. It'll just go like this, look. And you're down. You're on the ground. Okay? So, I'm just straightening it up here in the stall with my rudders. Okay? So, it's very dangerous in real life. Incredibly dangerous. And it happens a lot to people. And in the PPL, you practice this assimilating it close to the ground. Now, we've got a big wing drop there. See that? So, it's very bad. See how dangerous that is? So, how do we recover from this? Look at that. Into a spin there a little bit. We're going to crash. So how do I recover? Release the control column. That's not too late. Okay, we're back. Now, I kept the control column all the way back, all the way down to the ground almost, didn't I? And the key to recovering from the stall is to recognize it early. You recover at the first sign of the stall, which is slow flight, sloppy controls, low airspeed, and the stall water. Okay, so the reason I did that is, in real life, people when we train them to recognize and actually do the stall, we train them to get out of it quickly with the minimum loss of altitude. Okay? And your compulsion would be, oh my God, I don't want to go to the ground, and you pull back and you keep it back, and you're going to fall all the way out of the sky. And that's what we train pilots. We train them to avoid the compulsion of applying back pressure, where you actually have to lower the nose to break the stall and take a loss of height. Now, we train our pilots to lose height where I'm from, and they'll do it within 50 feet. Okay. Now, the simulator does here, it does operate a little bit differently than the real thing, but I think you get the gist of it. Let's recover successfully here. So I'm going to reduce all the power. We're going to do it again. Okay. Now, one thing I do notice in Microsoft Flight Simulator is that there's not enough drag simulated, because there's a coefficient of lift and a coefficient of drag. There's not enough coefficient of drag simulated in the simulator. I'm sure Sobo will fix that, because they've been pretty damn good so far, haven't they? I mean, the simulator is amazing, but it's taken a long time for this aircraft to slow down. It's all very floaty. Those of you who are landing probably notice that you're floating down the runway an awful lot. That's because there's not enough coefficient of drag simulated in the simulator. I'm sure they'll get around to it. Now, so we're passing 50 knots. It's taken ages. I mean, we would have recovered the stall now in a real aircraft. So it's taken ages. There's the stall warner. That's where you should recover. But I'm going to keep it back, okay? So I'm going to recover when I have full back deflection of the control column. I'm going to bring the control column all the way back. It's turning to the left. Ignore that. Don't pick it up at ailerons. Now it's all the way back. So I'm going to recover. Lower the nose. At full power. Keep the horizon 6 inches above the cowling. When you get 60 knots, just gently apply back pressure. Not too much. There we got our 60 knots. You got a positive rate of climb now. And we're getting out of the danger area. Brilliant. I want to show you something. I want to show you secondary stall. Taking all the power back again. And keeping the nose high. Okay. I'm going to keep the nose high. There we go. There's the stall. Okay. Listen, I'm recovering. Lowering the nose. Adding power. And I'm pulling back. Stall warner goes off again. Why is it going off there, lads, when I had plenty of speed? Well, here is the question. Does the aircraft stall depend on the speed? In other words, can you stall at like 100 knots or 150 knots? Yes, you can stall at any speed. Let's get into something faster and show you that. So we're in the Cessna Citation now, and we're bombing along at 236 knots. Will it stall? Well, let's do a tight turn here and see. So I'm going to turn really tight. See? The air doesn't have time to keep up with the wing. So we're stalling at high speed. See? I'm going to keep it there now. Let's go back to the Cessna 152 now and have a look at some common errors with regards to stalling on final for landing. Now, we haven't done takeoff and landing yet. We're going to do that in exercise 12 and 13, but I'm just showing you here a realistic stall. So see, I'm coming in very, very slow. I'm going to start flaring high now, which is very common as well, and we should be approaching at 70 knots. The stall warner is screaming at us. We're now stalling. Now the wing's going to drop. I can actually feel it in the simulator. It's going to drop to the right, believe it or not. There we go. The wing drops. We fall out of the sky. Bang. And that's terrible. And yeah, you don't want to do that. Well, I can't leave it like that, can I? Let's do something more successful. So I'm distracted here. I'm coming in too slow. People stall sometimes because they're just completely distracted, because they're talking to ATC. There's other aircraft they're looking out for, and they get very, very busy and they get overloaded and they go deaf. You go actually deaf. You can't hear. So you're coming in here and you're busy. You're talking to ATC. You're told then to go around. But in this case, I haven't added full power, but I've got my attitude for my 70 knots. But look at the speed, it's dying. Stall warner's going off and I may not be able to hear it. So it's going off, I'm pulling back and we don't know what's going on. So there you go, I've lowered the nose, added full power immediately. And I just want to keep it level now. I don't want to touch the ground, I just want to keep it level. And I'm waiting because I've got my flaps down, okay? So I'm going to take them up to 20 degrees. There we go, I've taken the flaps up because I've had a positive rate of climb. Because when you take the flaps up, you sink. Remember from the first exercise 4? Great, so now I've got to climb, I'm getting out of it, but I want my 60 knots. Now I'm going to take up the next stage of flaps, so we've got 10 flaps now, and we're gaining speed all the time. and then I'll wait till I get over 60 and take the flaps up. So there we go. We've saved a bad situation. And that's kind of what could happen to you in real life or in Flight Simulator. You know, your wife's barking at you. You gotta go to work, there's bills to pay, you can't be playing that all the time. You know, that nonsense. And that can cause you distractions. I'd just like to put up the members here and thank them very much for sponsoring the channel, because I don't take sponsorship from companies because I need to be able to be in a position to give a bad review if it's warranted. I don't like people being ripped off, especially when they come home Friday, install something and it doesn't work, it ruins your weekend, doesn't it? So that's why I don't get sponsorship. But thank you to the members. I'll put you all up here and you really are sorting out the channel and helping out. I'm delighted because I want to be in a position to give a truthful review. And not, you know, say, oh, I'm getting money for saying this product's good. You know, that doesn't happen. I just don't do that. So anyway, thank you to the members. And also, I had a difficult week because my PC broke. Basically, I did an update to the and I had to reinstall everything. It was a nightmare, and then eventually got up again, and that wrecked my schedule. And then, of course, only yesterday, my editing software auto-updated, and it ruined Final Cut, and I had to... But look, I'm up and running again, and it's actually all running much better than it was before, which is brilliant. So there you go. There's always a silver lining. Now, also, during this crazy madness of 2 weeks, don't worry, I won't crash. Okay? In this crazy madness of 2 weeks, I managed to add some social accounts for the channel. I have added Twitter under GripperSim. I'm on Instagram under GripperSim. I'm on Twitch under GripperSim, and Discord under GripperSim. Now, Twitch, I'm going to be streaming hopefully on Sunday, but I will let you know. It's going to be late on Sunday. It could be about 10 to 12 o'clock on Sunday night. That's GMT time. That's London time, if you like, or Dublin time. Now, I will let you know on the streams. But if you do miss the stream, I'm going to put it on Facebook as well, in case you miss the stream. And that is it. So thanks to the members, thanks to you, the viewer, for watching all the way to the end, and to my loyal and brilliant subscribers. Keep those comments coming in, because every time you make a comment, I know I don't get to them all, but I read them all. I always read all the comments, because sometimes people say, I don't like you doing this, I don't like you doing that. And I try my best to improve the channel through the comments, because it's the comments, it's the viewer that runs this channel and dictates what I show. So when I finish this series of exercises for tutorials, I will be looking to what you want to see in the comments. Also, I'm thinking of getting the new fancy graphics card from NVIDIA, isn't it? The 3090, the 3080 and the 3070. Now, in my head, I want to run the channel really well. That means I need loads of frames per second on the Flight Simulator, and I want to get the 3090. I'm making that effort because of the members. I think it's only right. But I'm thinking also you may want to see the 3080 because it's more affordable for everybody. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you soon.